Hello and welcome to part 2 of my Democracy versus Dictatorship using Cities Skylines. And in this episode I will run through more or less all of the mods that I use. I will not run through the assets individually. I can tell you which themes and styles I am using, but I want to explain all the mods to give you a better understanding of what I will be doing. Before I do that, I will just say in this episode I continue with layouts. I add a transport route. Right now you can see I'm adding the main station. I made it a sunken station because I thought it would look a bit cooler, and I kind of like the way that some of the places in this city are actually below sea level, and that reminds me of the Netherlands a bit, and I like how it looks, and it looks quite interesting and cool, and this and that. So without further ado, I will continue with the mods. Well, first I will go through the themes and styles. Of course I use the European and the vanilla. I also am using Axel Kai Boom's style, which is pretty cool. I think it's called Belgian style by Axel Kai Booms, and that's really one of my favorite styles, and it looks pretty cool. I also use Dutch houses, residential, low residential houses. I think if you search that on Steam Workshop, you'll find that. And also Nederlands gebouwen or geboen, I don't know how to say that, but something about housing, I think. I don't actually speak Dutch, but I assume it's something to do with that. I'm also using the Soviet style, of course, and Berlin-inspired buildings, which is also a really cool style because it's really big. And I take advantage of that. I use that more for my downtown areas because I think more commercial and offices are placed with that tile. What else am I using? Achromic Future, but heavily edited. I'm not using all of that. Just some of the modern sort of concretey, blocky buildings I'll be using from that for a downtown. And that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, and Boreal Scandinavian, more for the suburban areas. So there's some small Dutch houses and the Boreal, and also using the vanilla low residential with heavy use of selecting where they will be going. Okay, now on with the mods. The mods that I'm using, let's start with the road mods. I'm using the network extensions mods, which is incredibly important because it has way more roads to choose from and adds a bit more realism, and I have a lot more fun placing roads with that. And it's a game-changing mod. I highly recommend that mod if you don't use any other mods. That's one mod that will change a lot of what you can actually do with roads, and etc. What else? Network skins. I think I've installed the German network skin. I'm not entirely sure, but it should be. So I have a road skin. The roads are not the texture, I think, of the original game. I think it's the German one. I think. If not, I will install that later. I have 81 tiles unlocked. I'm gonna use pretty much the majority of the map, and I'm finally glad that that mod is actually working, because for most of the time I've been playing this game, that would crash my game. Another important mod that I use is the automatic bulldoze mod, because it just, I always leave the simulation running to see everything come together before I select and change all the buildings to what I want. I just see what pops up naturally, and with the automatic bulldoze, when it burns down or etc, I don't have to go and find every single little building to destroy. It's incredibly annoying, but most of you people who play this game know this mod very well. Okay, what else? A really important mod for me is one called toggleable whiteness, because I really do not enjoy placing parks or buildings or assets or whatever you call them with a white screen. I know it's a sort of feature, they said, to see how the thing you're placing affects the area around it. I don't like it at all. I think it's very clumsy looking, and it gets in the way of me placing things for parks and stuff, so I get rid of that. I mean, it's you can toggle it. So I mean, at least, so I toggle between it, because it can be important to have that view, but not always. That is incredibly irritating. I also use a demand master because I am not playing it in terms of an actual city, an actual simulation. I am just trying to make something that looks nice, and and to not get abandoned all the time and this kind of thing. I'm not trying to use this as a game. So the demand master is really useful. I can just select how intense I want the demand to be of everything, and that helps me out a lot. So now onto some very useful mods that I use in pretty much all of my City Skylines builds. It's the building eyedropper tool, for one thing. That is a tool which allows you to basically copy and paste a building. You press Control Z once the mod is installed. I think, no, you press Z. Or you press a button, I think it's Z. And it pretty much copies the building, and you can make row houses fit together perfectly and this and that, because I'm not always satisfied with the way the game generates randomly buildings and streets and stuff, and I like to have a lot more focus on control, on the detail, because I'm obsessed with it. I try to make it sort of look as close to a real place that I could visit in my mind as possible. And with that mod, if you want to use that, you're going to need also the control building level up mod. That mod basically lets you set your eyedropped buildings, the eyedropper tooled buildings, if you make your own city, and you click on the level the building's at. You know how the buildings have many different levels, and you just click it on the level that it's at, and it stays there and it doesn't move. It's like similar, I don't know if you guys have played SimCity 3000, but there is a make historic button on every building, and it means the building won't go away, and basically that's what that does, and I like to do that as well. Another similar mod to that is one called Ploppable Reco, but you have to download all the buildings individually, and then they come into the panel, which you'll be able to see on the right. It's being covered right now there, the last one on the right. That's the Ploppable Reco mod, and that is basically just lets you place the buildings that you've pre-downloaded wherever you want. So it's a very similar mod. What else is important? No more purple. I don't understand why the game designers decided that in every industrial area or around it the soil would become purple. I know that it was from this cartoonish style, but gets in the way of realism for me, and I never really liked it, so I get rid of that. It gives it a little brown around it. What I don't like is how it changes the trees around it and also by the water. I think that's a feature too. I haven't gotten rid of that as of yet, but I might. Now that I say that, I don't know if I can add a lot more mods, because when I played this game today, it crashed many times. I couldn't even open it because I added a few more buildings. I think some of the assets I downloaded had too many polygons, so I don't know which one it was, which is a shame because I really wanted a lot of those assets. So I don't know if I'll be adding any more mods than the ones that I have already, and on with more mods that I have, because it doesn't stop there. But we're almost finished. One of my most favoriteest mod ever is more beautification. That mod is fantastic. It lets you place individual assets that you find in parks onto the map directly. So you can make playgrounds, you can make seating areas and benches and toilets and other things. I think I have some extra ones downloaded, and I absolutely adore this mod. You will see it, maybe not, if not in this part, but in the next part. You will see me use that to make these little parks. I'm just doing these little test parks, sort of like promos, because I think it will be a bit boring if you are always looking at me build roads and stuff. So I think I'm about to the recording's not going to last very long, so I have to wrap this up very quickly. Wow, I'm speaking through the whole thing. So more beautification mod. I use the tree brush, which is pretty self-explanatory, but not always. I'm very pedantic about where I place my trees. And what else can I say? Yes, the European building unlocker, of course. I have both buildings from both styles, American and European, available to me. And also the building themes mod, which allows me to change to multiple themes in my districts and areas, and this and that. So that about wraps it all up. I gotta finish very, very soon. I will be making a list of all these mods eventually. Not right now. It's gonna be a long thing to do. I don't know if I'll put links to download, but I'll try. See how lazy I'm gonna be. So you can at least have a reference of what I will be using. But I've just given you a little rundown of why I use all those mods, and maybe, hopefully, if you didn't know about any, you can try them out, because they are very, very, very fun to work with, and a lot of them change the game quite a lot. So, phew, that was a long talk. I'm gonna leave it there, and I will see you in part 3, where I will have lots of design aspects and things that I will be talking about, and I will still be probably working on the Dutch style, the Western democratic city. I'm not sure how long it will be before I move on to the Soviet police state city. But hang in there. This is not supposed to be a rushed build. This is going to be quite a long series, and hopefully it will last as long as until the update is happening. So, of Planet Coaster. So I will leave it there, and I will see you then, and hopefully you enjoy the rest, which is not very much, of the video. Bye for now. Wow, you watched all the video. If you like what you see, click in one of these boxes to see me play Planet Coaster, and subscribe if you want to motivate me. And also, thanks for watching.